Thanks, Nistosh, and good afternoon to all my friends, all the supply chain professionals. So on behalf of SCPC, I would like to welcome all of you. Just a few words about what SCPC is all about. It stands for Supply Chain Practitioners Council, and today is the 12th edition of the Mumbai chapter of Supply Chain Practitioners Council. And the topic for today's session is supply chain startups in India. And we are very lucky to have four fabulous startup founders who are going to participate in the panel discussion. So it's going to be a very exciting panel discussion, I am sure, and all of us will learn a lot from the startup journey of these four founders. Now, the objective of SCPC, uh, this is a voluntary organization, no membership fee. All supply chain professionals are invited. They can become a member of SCPC. And the idea is threefold. Firstly, we learn the best practices from each other. So through these events, we learn best practices, plus even through networking with the peers in the supply chain arena. There are a lot of best practices. Plus, for problem solving, in case anyone has any issue or has a problem, all of us can contribute to solving that problem. So people can reach out to the peer network to learn, to help others solve their problem or give their opinion on how it can be done. Plus, we get to know all the peers. So that's a big benefit of SCPC. We also identify certain business process improvement opportunities through such interactions and through these events, where individual companies and professionals can benchmark what they are doing, what others are doing, and is there a way in which their processes could be improved. Yeah, Nistush, next slide, please. Yeah, so as I said, it's voluntary participation by supply chain professionals. Uh, we try to gather once in 3 months in the form of an event. It's a public event where anyone can register and participate in these events. And these events are hosted by some organizations, like this particular event is being hosted by Henkel and RSA Global. And we have a knowledge partner, KnoWerX, supporting this event. There's no enrollment fee. We have 3 to 4 hours of knowledge sharing session. This event is shorter. It's 1.5 hours because it's virtual. When we have physical events, or when we used to have physical events before the pandemic, it used to be typically half a day session of the supply chain professionals. There's no spend for the hosting organization. It's just arranging for just the refreshments, etc. There's no fee for either participation or for hosting. Um, so I have covered a lot of why we should attend this forum. So maybe we can go to the next slide. Nistush. Yeah. So there have been several partners, and some of the biggest names in the country and abroad have participated in SCPC. So you will see a lot of your favorite brands, and many of us are from these companies. And now, just a few glimpses of what SCPC Mumbai chapter has done. The first event was held at IIT Bombay. We have several educational institutions, leading educational institutes in the area of supply chain as part of the Supply Chain Practitioners Council. So IIT Bombay, NITI, SP Jain, all of them are part of SCPC and they actively participate. So IIT Bombay hosted the first edition of SCPC. The second was hosted by Godrej. SP Jain also hosted one of the editions. And then later on, Johnson and Johnson, Henkel, several companies have hosted this. So in each event, we try to take up a topic which is relevant, uh, which suits the context of the overall economy at that point in time. And we thought that the topic for this event should relate to the startups. So, and that's why we have got the four founders of four different startups together, all in the area of supply chain, so that we can learn from your journey. Yeah, and Bangalore also has a SCPC chapter. In fact, Bangalore was the first chapter established under SCPC, and Mumbai is the second chapter. The founder of SCPC is Murugan. He's there with us. You can see him smiling. So he has been with Johnson and Johnson for a long time, and before that with Dell. So he started SCPC in Bangalore when he was I think with Dell. And when he came to Mumbai, we started the Mumbai chapter. So he is the main driving force behind SCPC, and all of us are helping him in growing SCPC. Yeah, we have about 1,000 members currently in SCPC, and more are expected to join. So that's about Supply Chain Practitioners Council, and let me now introduce the moderator for the panel discussion. It's a pleasure to introduce Prasad Guru, a very well respected professional in the field of supply chain, and currently a senior partner with IBM Consulting, looking after the data and technology transformation. He has a very rich experience in the supply chain field. He's an alumnus of SP Jan and a very dear friend. So it's always a pleasure to be working with Prasad Group, and I'm sure he will. It's fun to participate as well as witness a panel discussion hosted by him. I have seen panel discussions earlier hosted by him, and I'm sure we are going to have a lot of good time and a lot of learning with the way he draws out all the participants. So now I would hand it over to Prasad to introduce the panelists and take it forward. Over to you, Prasad.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. And yeah, I mean, I keep telling myself, all is well, all is well, all is well. As you keep talking, it is never an easy act to follow when Dr. Sinha is doing the introduction. Been an extreme friend, esteemed client, and learned a lot from him. I mean, even today, after we all speak, he speaks, and then we look like fools, actually, to be honest. So that's Dr. Sinha. But thank you, Dr. Sinha, and thanks for the opportunity. So team, look, genuinely, so we have got some absolutely rocking founders out here. We've got Swapnil Shah, we've got Nikki, we've got Lalit, and we've got Colonel Arvind Ganguly. I'm going to request all of them to put their cameras on. They are absolutely, stunning folks. And even when we were discussing in terms of what should be the topic, how do we go about it, etc., there's obviously a sense of nervousness and excitement. Because this is a domain that is so vast. Okay, at the same time, it is so deep to kind of excel out here. So in that spirit, what we said is we will reach out to our four esteemed founders. You will hear them, and you will realize that the kind of accomplishments they've done so early in their career and their passion for their job is just unparalleled. I'm not going to take much time, on the much of the sound bites, because I can keep going on and on. I've already been warned by Murugan 3 times that please talk less and let the panelists speak. So on that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off round one. What I call round one is a brief introduction, and more importantly, talking about the journey. So I'm going to call upon Swapnil. Okay, just for everyone's benefit. Swapnil is this, absolutely front bencher, top 10 percentile, B metallurgy. I don't know what was he doing in metallurgy, from iron carbon diagram, going on to do his MS from the University of Tennessee. Went and did his international shipping from MIT. He was at Harvard. So guys, I mean, fairly well accomplished. And in fact, he then began his career with Caterpillar. I mean, again, a company that I look upon very highly to kind of learn great things early in the career. He was with HBS, Dana Holding, working with the group president. And finally, I don't know what the startup bug hit him or what, in 2014 December, I mean, it seems like a New Year resolution that I will have a company. And then he founded Freight Tiger. I had just two questions for him to open up with, Swapnil, if you could. Why the name Freight Tiger? What your journey, and what problem do you solve? I know too many questions, but there you go. I'm sure you'll do all the best. Good. You're on mute, Swapnil, for speaking.
No, not at all. And it's funny when you talked about all those educational experiences and companies, right? So the first thing as a founder you realize is no one cares about any of that. You go to your first customer, first investor, and all that just literally evaporates right in front of you. All ego conditioning that is done because of you've gone to a particular school or worked at a particular company, it's done, right? Ultimately, what matters is what you're selling, what problems you're solving. Um, the name Freight Tiger, I'll come to that in a little bit. The other question you asked, how I started and why I started. Uh, I was a hardcore engineer, and my work was mostly in material science. And I not only was an engineer, but ton of my time was spent in research at both Caterpillar and before. Even when I was in Bombay, I did a couple internships at Baba Atomic Research Center and stuff. When I went to the US after graduate school, I was working in Caterpillar. And I remember my first manager told me that, look, Swapnil, in this research group, 70% people have PhDs. And very few people have like only a master's degree. And I only had a master's degree. And he said, you'll either thrive or you literally will be massacred. I mean, that's the language. And after 3 years in that group, I loved research. I did well. But at the end of the day, I feel there is some Guju genes that probably prompt you to think about building something and commercial part of the business. And I thought I was a good engineer, but I probably wasn't the best engineer. And I felt it's good for me to go look at other parts of the company. Caterpillar was very generous, where if you were doing well in the company, you literally could pick a job, you could interview and go get that job. So I moved into Caterpillar's logistics business, Cat Logistics. My neighbor lived in Chicago at that time. When I lived in Chicago at that time, he one day when I came home from work showed me this article in Chicago Tribune, which talked about plight of independent truck operators in the US. And it was a front page article way back. This was in 2006. These industries like Ola, Uber, Airbnb, none of that was organized. Imagine before smartphones, right? And we both walked away thinking, wow, there has to be a better way to do this. And that's it. I mean, that was the seed that got planted at that time. And I kept thinking about this idea and eventually started Freight Tiger. But that was the genesis. That's how I thought about logistics, this idea. And name Freight Tiger, nothing. I mean, there is no crazy, no fancy, no cool story. I wish I had one. There is an element of stealth and tiger in the way we operate in many ways, and it fits well together as a name, and that's about it.
Oh,
I think Kurup, you're in mute.
Yeah, I mean, so that's apparently you're on mute is the most frequently spoken word these days while we're online. So thanks for that, and love that honesty, right? I mean, nothing, no fancy. We were just that stealth operator was what Freight Tiger wanted to convey. So great, thanks for that, Swapnil. I'm going to go to another top-ranking professional and founder, Nikki Kochali. Again, electronics and telecommunication from our own Amchi, Mumbai, from Vidya Vihar, and then straight away landing onto Carnegie Mellon for doing information systems, working with companies like Sears, American Express, and a proud Googler. Imagine doing strategy and analytics for Google. I mean, I don't know, life can't be any better on that one. And I don't know what happened in 2019 that she said, look, Fountain 9 is what is my calling. Nikki, your journey, why Fountain 9, the mission, and your aspirations go in the long run. Nikki, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so for me, it was, like when I, moved to the US to do masters, like several others, like working at Google was one of the, life milestones that, I wanted to have for myself. And so after a few jobs, I did land where, I always wanted to, like kind of like, it's like a dream company. Again, like no different than several others, right? And it was great. It was an amazing journey to be at Google. Did go through the usual, like a chase of like chasing for like the next promotion, the next, big milestone and such in your role, right? And then it starts to, like you start to think of like, now, like once you've hit that milestone, now what's better and bigger than what you have. And that is where, like, I guess that was one of the questions for me in life, is to figure out like, now that you've gotten to where you always wanted to be, like what's next, right? Because what's next that's bigger than chasing the next promotion within that company, right? So that was kind of like the motivation to basically, like, in the hope of like building something which can be bigger, was what was like the start of like the like the entrepreneurship journey for me. And also, actually, I was fortunate enough to see several of my extremely close friends do this, like, and see, like, draw inspiration from them, and they are all now like leading like really amazing companies in India. And so it was also like, in the past, growing up, it was like founders were always like Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and all, right? And then you see like people like you, right, like doing like amazing things, and that starts to give you encouragement that, hey, like, there is hope for several of us to, like, take a stab at like doing amazing things in the world. And so that was where, like, then started to work on, like jump, that was kind of like the initiation of like getting into the entrepreneurship journey for me. And then so wrapped up everything in the US, left Google, and then moved back to India to start Fountain 9. And yeah, so the thing that we are building at Fountain 9 is a, like a AI based demand sensing and inventory optimization solution. For me, like across all the roles that I had in my previous career, I was always like, one of the core parts of my roles was like forecasting something, like predicting something. Like at Google, I was trying to predict like how our subscribers would increase. At American Express, what would be prediction of like our future card members. At Sears, it was about like, what would be future sales across different products. So there was always an aspect of predicting something in future. And so a lot of things where things weren't done the way that ideally you would want to do. So wanted to pick an area which was very dear to what I have done, but do it in a way that I would have ideally liked to do, and also apply it to a place where there's scale. So that's where, like, jumped into this domain where, like, we've built an engine which is like which we are quite proud of, and it applies to like, a use case which works at scale in terms of like touching upon retail CPG companies and such. So that's been, like the way, like, the idea, kind of like evolved into the product that we now have at Fountain 9. So yeah.
And awesome. I'm going to come back to you on why wastage, what is chronoscope, and the white papers. Okay. Thanks for that, Nikki. In fact, I'm sure the audience is going to come and ask you with the crystal ball that you have, what's going to happen on the Sensex on Monday. but thanks for that, Nikki. Okay,
If I knew that, I probably would be already doing that by now.
Okay, good. Hey, so from Mumbai, we are going to kind of head to Amsterdam. Okay, and that's where Lalit Das is currently there. He's been traveling for all through. He tells me he never stopped traveling. He is somebody from RSA Rourkela, so you can imagine. I mean, from the heart belt of the nation. I'm sure he's seen the enough and more steel plants. Then I went on to do his masters from MDI Gurgaon. Worked for Kuehne+Nagel as a vice president, and then again, 2012 is when he said, "Look, I need to be amongst the most admired solution company in supply chain, so sustainability, scalability, and systems driven." Something that we actually taught as fundamentals in supply chain, which is what stands for 3SC that he founded. Lalit, your journey and talk about your passion in this domain, and what are you seeing in this field?
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. Let me just give a quick overview about myself. So I started this journey in 2012, embarked upon to build up 3SE. So prior to that, so I worked in the almost 10 years in Kuehne+Nagel in the OPL vertical across India, Europe, and Asia Pacific. So during that journey, I learned a lot in the logistics and majorly in the supply chain space, which the company was almost to $20 billion Swiss company. They never utilized the power of the data, but about the history of the company was almost 100 years old company. And the transformations were taking a lot of time. That gave me a trigger. So while I was the Asia Pacific head in Singapore, to explore how data could play a bigger role within the supply chain and the logistics space. So prior to that, I worked in the manufacturing sector in Sony and Honda after graduating in Operation Research and Marketing from MDI, Management Development Institute from Gurgaon. And so as Kurup mentioned, I also did my electrical engineering from NIT, which was called Regional Engineering College those days from Rautela. So my passion was to really build up something on the supply chain and the logistics space. So I had a lot of, I gathered a lot of courage, I would say, to build up this, because you don't come from a extremely, well-off family who could actually hold that you can fail and can take the journey with the financial implications. So I asked my wife to continue her role. She was the director for human resource, and I embarked upon this journey as a sole founder and started bootstrap from my home. I took a very cautious call, and that's what I believe. Probably from 2 people, I built up almost 286 people in India, in Pune, in Gurgaon, across the Asia Pacific, in Singapore, and in Europe. So we have not ventured into the US market because I had no experience in US. I would have hardly traveled to the US market except for some few business deals. So that gave me my confidence that where I have my strength, where I have my understanding, my network in my market. So I embarked upon the Europe, and that's our European headquarters where I am currently taking the call. So we primarily solve the problem in the supply chain demand planning space, inventory planning, production planning, and distribution planning. So that's the planning suite which we solve. And apart from that, so what Kurup mentioned was on the sustainability. We do a lot of work on sustainability. This is something we had no idea about how carbon emissions would play the role. But I think in the last couple of years, in the initial days, nobody understood about sustainability. When we spoke, they said, we don't know, we don't understand anything. We just need the cost reductions. And that's the standard fundamental every sourcing person looks at. So we built on our advanced analytics models across the sustainability to primarily reduce the carbon footprints. That's the one part which we did. And the other, we did it in the planning space, just like Fountain 9 had done in the demand space, demand planning space with demand sensing and the other. So our predictive analytics, prescriptive and descriptive analytics combined extremely well with a digital control tower. That's where we differentiated in the market. So we, of course, raised, the one part is that we have been always EBITDA positive for the last 7 years. We always, I believe that cash is king, and we never went on, having burning the cash. So that valued us, and we, of course, went on almost 100 million plus valuations, which we did raised from GF Capital, our Series B. I mean, those are what gives us the success today. But behind that, I think there has been a lot of failures which we learned. And we actually built up this company, what we see today. As an individual founder, I think what I believe more important is that be at the ground, so understand the customer's problem much better. And we never had a business development team. This is the first time last year we created a BD team. And it was all our customers spoke to customers. And that's what, so you need to really invest a good time with the customer to understand their problem, which today, that's an area where I think the founders need to really spend time and understand the real need of the market and the customer and the trends. So, and you need to go with that speed. So that's broadly about me, the company, and the overall our customer segments which we have.
Hey, thanks for that, Lalit. And I mean, as you were saying, you embarked on the journey from home. I mean, I was getting goosebumps because actually I'm this guy eagerly waiting for the 30th SMS that, XXX money has been deposited in the bank on for this month. I mean, I don't know if I can live without that feeling, but I mean, kudos to all of you for getting out of that fear factor on that one. On that note, I'm going to go to Colonel Arvind Ganguly. He served the nation till 2006. He's got a BSc in science from JNU, advanced materials management degree from the College of Materials Management. He's got a diploma in international business and foreign trade from Symbas Institute Management. He's a PGDM from the Indian Institute of Materials Management in Bangalore. And post his service to the nation as a colonel in the army, he was actually the head faculty for supply chain, College of Material Management. He was a director of supply chain in RK Foodlands. Went on to lead risk management for Aditya Birla, jumping onto Tesco as the head of supply chain. And then I don't know whether it was I've had enough and let me go and start a company of its own or something else that prompted him. A dear friend, he's known as Arvind to most of us in that sense. Arvind, you come a very different background, right? I mean, here is the whole digital AI, ML world, and you're this guy who's the real brick and mortar, right? I mean, bring it on, guys. I mean, here is my company. Here are my drivers. Here are my trucks. Talk about your journey, and more importantly, how do you kind of see this marriage of the digital world with the actual real life heat and dust that you're enduring in the cities of Mumbai and all the far-reaching parts of the country, Arvind?
Yeah, so Prasad, I was very lucky to have served in the army, and I got to see large parts of the country free of cost. And that really helped me when I embarked on the journey. And as you know, I was from the fighting arms. I had to take a changeover because of my injuries to logistics. And that helped me in good stead because last I was a director supply chain in Army headquarters, and as part of the Defense Procurement Board. And in 2006, I decided to leave after my tenure in North Kashmir. And came out in 2006, and I was fortunate to work in three really world-class companies. First, of course, was Radhakrishna Foodland, which you may be knowing that it provides all supply chain activities for McDonald's and Papa John. So that was my, the grounding I got in the civil world was from Radhakrishna Foodland. All the best practices I learned there. Subsequently, I went on to Aditya Birla Retail. And from Aditya Birla Retail, I moved to Tesco when they came into India. And I was fortunate enough to open their first warehouse in India at Bombay. In 2012, I decided to embark on my own. I got this opportunity. I just thought about it. It was a very big decision. Like, as you said, that from a government job, you're used to getting a salary on the 30th. So also in the corporate world, and then suddenly you realize you're in a place where things are very, very different, and an entrepreneur's life is not very easy. I'm sure all of the other three panelists would have gone through the same phase. It's tough, but it's challenging, but very, very exciting, to be your own boss and to create something of great value. And it so happened that when we started off, like Das said that, he started off from his house. We started from a Barsati. So after working in an area like DKC, in one of the corporate buildings, and suddenly you were in a Barsati where you didn't even have proper washroom facilities. So from there we started off, and we had 0 trucks, and today we have 250 trucks. So, and we could have grown more also. And we were lucky. I was staying in a complex where there were a lot of fund managers, and they were investment bankers. And during work, I used to understand what is it that the private equity funds look for, and when backing an entrepreneur. And that helped me in good stead, and that's how we started Schedulers in 2012. And our tagline was, "We schedule, you rule." That was the tagline that we started off. And we came in at a time when even in one of all these top retail companies used to have their chicken and meat delivered in auto rickshaws in a tub, iced tub. And from then, last 10 years, there has been a sea change. These days, people are so particular about temperature. They have data loggers inside. There are systems which remotely you can monitor, not only monitor, but you can control the temperature also remote. And that has been the sea change that we have noticed in last 10 years, especially after 2017, when a lot of technology has come in, and a lot of bright sparks, those who have worked abroad and all, have come in, and they are filling up a much needed requirement of the industry. Ours is a very asset heavy business, so actually very different from what the other three have, because asset heavy business finds lesser acceptance among private equity, because naturally it's very difficult to manage. As the asset grows, so do the complications. But it's a physical world where you have to, once you have the assets, you have to pay for it. So even in last 2 years, there's been COVID, but we had to pay our EMIs in time. We had to pay all back taxes, which the government, said that they had reduced or they had abolished. But we had to pay all of that and still survive. So I'm happy to say that among the 18 players who started off on this, we have about 4 or 5 players who are still left in this, and we are doing sufficiently well to service the food industry. And a lot of startups are coming up in food, and very different. People are making sauces, they're making dips, they are making. I can't even, some of the names I can't even pronounce. So these type of people have come into the market, and each has got a very small clientele, and they distribute something like, say, 1 ton in a market like Mumbai. Okay, they supply the item from Bangalore, but they supply 1 ton here. There's a lady who manufactures vegan ice cream. Her total offtake here must be just about 15 to 20 tons in Mumbai. So we cater for a very large thing. We work right from Amul and Mother Dairy, the big daddies of cold chain and cold chain ice cream products, to somebody who makes dips and sauces, and they have their packages which don't even weigh 200 kgs. So that's the range that we do. We supply all India, so naturally we have that acceptance among the people, and we are an asset heavy business. And in 2017 is where we embarked on this journey for adopting technology in this, and that has stood us well, and that has been the real clincher in terms of visibility, in terms of maintaining standards, and in terms of customer engagement. So that's where we are.
Thanks for that. In supply chain, at least fundamentals was focus. Great, get your product segments. I don't know how are you managing two extreme product segments of the big daddies like Amul and the small housewives who are making that. So that's a complex algorithm. I'm sure you're in your mind that you're solving for them, Arvind. But thanks for sharing that experience, Arvind. I'm going to kind of get back to Swapnil now. And for those who are listening in, if you have any questions, put it on the chat. Nistush will try and get them across to me. Swapnil, back to you. And I know we talked about this, right? If I were to kind of ask you to share your secret sauce, how did you manage the tough COVID times? And more importantly, if you could touch upon a bit more on the specific problems that you solve for your clients by virtue of the platform that you have. Just a bit of insights, so that our audience get to hear about, okay, yeah, this is what it does. But more importantly, as an entrepreneur or a potential entrepreneur, the toughest times for all of you pretty much was during COVID time. So can you talk about some of these two, the elements of both your platform and your tough times during COVID, Swapnil? Swapnil, you're on mute.
What Freight Tiger does is we focus on main full truckload transactions today. We do a little bit of PTL, but we went after industries that have high transportation spend and a little less complexity in terms of distribution. And the goal for us is from planning all the way to invoicing of freight. If you looked at the freight transaction, it goes through, there is a sales order, purchase order, there is a dispatch order, then it goes into planning, then indent or reverse auction bidding, track and trace, control tower, proof of delivery, and freight invoicing. That whole FTL transaction, today we digitize it. And from day one, our ambition has always been to do this end to end. There are a lot of people that will do the pieces of it, and there are parts where you need a specialist. Our goal is actually tie that all together and to look purely from a systems thinking point of view, end-to-end point of view, to do that. And then the goal is you're doing that so that you are one platform for your customers, and you're allowing them to improve their on-time, in full performance, OTP, especially for FTL, at a competitive freight cost. And what we have done well, I think, if you think about, in a way, secret sauce, there are so many things that impact cost of FTL logistics. Everything from detention at an unloading point all the way to what does the payment cycle look like, to the planning piece. And our goal is to go into a customer and to understand what are the things in their operations that are adding that cost. And then using the data we have, using the platform we have, the expertise we have, can we then make an impact in reducing their cost, improving their fulfillment and delivery performance, and make sure you become almost a single platform for them to get all their updates, someone for them to manage escalations, exceptions, all of it. So that's one piece of it. But a really bigger piece, though, is we think of our role as creating a digital freight network. So every time we go solve this problem at a customer, they come onto the platform, their logistics service providers come onto the platform. And by doing that, we genuinely have become the largest freight network in the country today. And to give you a sense of scale, we did about 620,000 FTL line haul transactions a month on the platform. And that's about, if I'm not wrong, it's about 3.5 to 4% of the country's FTL. It represents about $3.5 to $4 billion of freight transaction value that is going through the platform. And what that does today is you're not helping customers within only their own operations, but you can now help customers across customers. The other day, we were talking to a company and they said, look, I have movements from Mumbai to Delhi, and I know there is another company in that space, which is on your platform. They do reverse movement. And can you help us optimize? So what network does is you have a bird's eye view on the whole FTL market versus you're looking at only at a customer level. Customer level, we anyways do. And today, customers talk to us and get excited and come onto Freight Tiger, not just because of the technology platform and the control tower and all that, but they love the network part of it. And the last piece is it's surprisingly no one talks about it, is payments are so broken in logistics. And if I had a magic wand, and if I said I was just one wish, it's the oil that keeps the engine running. And across the value chain, payments get delayed. Even in today's age, a truck driver that is a movement from, let's say, Mumbai to Calcutta, bring literally on a piece of a purchase, somebody signs at the back of it saying, I got the material. And that piece, the guy has to bring back from Calcutta to Mumbai. Then he's going to take it to a broker or a logistics service provider. Then they create a bill. And then that bill will go to, let's say, an HUL or a Godrej or any customer, right? And what that does is it adds working capital for everyone involved in the process, right? So the last thing now that we are trying to attempt is, can we simplify that for everyone involved? And what that means then is for us to be a single platform, do transaction end to end, build a network, and you also solve for payments. And combined is when then you start making the biggest impact on the customer. So I mean that's kind of the role that we play. And over time, naturally, when you have that level of volume going through you, the insights that you have about the market and the routes and the stuff become very helpful for both us and the customers. When it comes to COVID, look, I mean, there were about 2 to 3 months when I think none of us knew, right, what's going to happen. I mean, we kind of all had sort of some idea of what that might look like, but I mean, probably extremes in some ways. The volume literally dropped like close to what 10-20% of what typical volume would be. We, I think, were a little fortunate because because the diversity of customers we had on the platform, at least 50-60% of our volume came back fairly rapidly. So it was genuinely, I mean, we are fortunate and grateful that it wasn't as bad as it could have been or was for other people during that time. That's number one. Number two is, as a startup, what you typically then do is you make sure your costs are in control. You reduce costs wherever you can. You raise a little bit more money, and you ensure that you have healthy runway at all times. So we were fortunate; we were able to do that like right away. And then we planned like the hell out of it, right? Literally every week, every month, you're making sure that you collect revenue, your revenue is there, cash position is great. And also, overall, don't do anything crazy in terms of cost and stuff. And the volume came back. Then, for us, actually, this put so much emphasis on digitizing that whole FTL transaction that the sales cycles actually accelerated quite a bit. And it was helpful where there was a reset, right, for everyone. And imagine you are a company, manufacturing company, and you do movements out of different parts of the country, and all of a sudden you can't process bills manually, you can't process your indents manually. And that allowed us to accelerate our journey quite a bit. And until COVID hit, typically customers would come to us and say, I know you have an end-to-end platform, but I would want a module to start with in your platform. And what has changed in the last 18 months is 90% of the discussions we have where people want end-to-end platform. So kind of that changed quite a bit. And other than maybe one, two, sort of like the second wave hit, third wave, there, without a doubt, again, it was a little unnerving because, the volumes, but we never went to 85% of our peak volume. We kind of stayed at that, and then it started increasing again. And then the last thing is teams. I mean, it impacted our teams quite a bit. And one of the things I think we did well was, even as a startup, in terms of getting people health insurance, then we found a counselor. So people who have gone through grief and other challenges, we kind of enabled that support. And there was a time when literally we had like our own control tower team within the company. We had a couple people where everything from someone needing a hospital bed all the way to oxygen tank, we kind of as a team pitched in and tried to help each other. And I think we got through it. Some people definitely were far more impacted than others. And it was really terrible, especially the second wave, I think, was really, really tough on some of the people. So you do as much as you can as a team and a company for those people that are impacted. And I think now, just because of this acceleration in terms of the whole end-to-end adoption, I feel, again, we are fortunate where, in a way, it didn't impact us that badly. And it's almost accelerated the move towards the end-to-end digitization in our case.
Thanks for that. In fact, I was extremely trying to think through those tough times, and all when good to hear the story that you're jumping on the social side as well. I mean, it was a bit of a terrible time that we all went through. So thanks for sharing that. But I think two things I would amplify, right? What works in India can actually be taken to the globe. I suspect your platform might be bigger than some of the few countries put together. You could actually be the only platform for a few countries globally out there, Swapnil. And the power of networking, I think that is awesome. Brilliant. It's so easy to still connect like a Facebook P2P, but it's never easy to connect the truck drivers and multiply on that one. Great secret sauce on that one. Thanks for sharing that, Swapnil. Nikki, I'm going to come to you on this one. So I know unless people have kind of Googled you and dug out some details on Fountain 9 by now, your tagline was all about stopping wastage. And you've got some of the marquee clients that we all deal with in our day-to-day lives. From getting up in the morning, I know I'll dial up your customer and ask for something that will keep me awake, to something that will ensure that my hunger pangs are also addressed. So talk about your customers, talk about Chronoscope, and talk about the wastage that you're trying to address in this industry, Nikki.
Yeah, sure. So Chronoscope is the core product that is the demand sensing and inventory planning solution. And specifically, so we work with, of course, we work with a wide variety of companies, but we are quite focused in the food space. The reason for actually picking this has been because while there's a cost for understocking for almost everybody that has an inventory-led model, if you're understocked, you're losing, revenue because you don't have the right inventory levels. But the cost of overstocking is like extremely pronounced in the food industry, where excess inventory is literally wasted inventory, like wasted food. While in, like outside of food space, like, of course, there is a cost for overstocking where working capital and all gets locked up and that excess inventory. But in the food space, it's all, like literally you have to throw that away, right? And also to quantify, right, like globally, almost like $260 billion worth of food gets wasted every year. And a significant portion of that happens because of mismanaged inventory. And mismanaged inventory happens because like almost like even like the really large custom, like, companies still use like very simplistic ways to plan what they need as their future inventory requirements. And so it's a combination of like, working through spreadsheets, combination of using some just daily averages, just or more like traditional ways of like just looking at historical like run rates of how you're selling and like planning what your future requirements are going to be, right? And that is where there's that opportunity, like that like inefficiency starts to come, where you land up stocking a lot more than what you need. And that's where what we have done in our product is how to bring all of these drivers that influence demand all on one place, so that we have a much more efficient way to predict what future requirements are going to be. One of the important ones being waste. So just to give an example, right, like if we only look at, let's say, how things have been selling in the past, there could be a period when like sales may have peaked up. But what people miss is like why they could have peaked up is like there are scenarios like you had excess inventory, so you just land up running some liquidation discount to clear out that inventory. And then that picked up your sales, but it also increased your waste. And that scenario is actually never considered anywhere. People only look at top line sales. Oh, it peaked in this period. Okay, my average is high. Now let me plan for higher numbers. So that high sales, which actually contributed to high waste, is trickling for future period also. And then you're still planning for higher numbers. And then it's a vicious cycle that you're not able to come out of. So that is where it becomes important, is how do we bring all of these drivers, like what have been historical waste levels, what are our future targets, how to factor those in so that we plan considering those constraints around which we have to actually keep our waste levels, right? So those, some of those, like, and then of course there are other factors also we bring in, but like, just tying into the waste levels, right? Like it's extremely important to consider all of these different factors in the planning process. And that is one of the uniqueness of like the approach that we bring to the market, is to how do we bring all of these interrelated things so that we don't land up being in a scenario and then today we are trying to solve this problem for like one company at a time, like, but the higher goal is to be able to solve this at a larger scale, right? Because like things are interrelated also, but you start somewhere, try to solve it for one company at a time, and hopefully that like translates into a much bigger impact in the longer run, right? So yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. I'm also going to request my panelists to also, if you're not speaking, check out the chat box and try and if you could respond some of the chat and give your views on the chat. So then I could also kind of keep the discussions going out there as we speak. Lalit, if I may come to you next. Look, you've got a bold mission. You've got a great vision as well. You're off camera, Lalit. I don't know if you could get the camera back. Could you talk about some of the, how do you use tech as an enabler and also as a deterrent? I mean, how do you stay ahead of the game? Because you're somebody who's, dealing with a large team, 250 plus members, driving tech as an enabler. And I mean, some common theme between, and I can share that with you in full transparency, is the talent part. I mean, it's something that we are all kind of running short on. So can you talk about some of these aspects for our listeners to understand, look, it is a journey that will come with challenges, but also how do, successful entrepreneurs keep and leverage tech as an enabler and at the same time manage the talent issues?
Mm-hmm. If I understood, I think it was a long question, but if I understood about our organization, what you perceive, it's a large setup where there are people, and today in the current scenario, you have key challenges in holding the talents and building the competency framework to deliver the high expectations of the customers, right? That's broad my thought. Okay. So I'll touch upon the service what we offer with related to the challenges what we go with the people. So today, as we offer the similar predictive analytics space, so it's a demand planning space where primarily improvement of the forecast accuracy of the enterprises. So it bolts on to the ERPs, which is SAP, IBP, or the Oracles. So the ability of using the data sets, whether it is an ETL, putting in an NLP, using all the ML techniques to primarily integrate that with the exogenous variables, leads to giving a better outcome of the sales and operation planning output, which everybody looks forward to have a better forecast accuracy. So we do bottom-up rollout plus top-down both. So digitalized for one of the India's largest consumer durable company. And then we extended that, of course, to the global market. Having said that, when we were small, when I say small, I think a team of around 50, 60. So today we have got out of 280 people, we have close to around 146 data scientists. And we build the talent typically from IIT Kharagpur and Kanpur. And so that's where I think because of some of our directors and the other leadership team come from there, it becomes a little easy to build up those data science people across. Now, one part which I did and was we transferred a lot of people to Netherlands because I think the aspirational part of people to work at a global part, you have to keep that continuing to meet their aspirations. So, I mean, there is no success recipe to hold them, but it is all about how do you build their ESOPs. And ESOPs are not supposed to be typically within that C-suites and all. We built up, of course, what we call KMPs, key management personnel. Today, even an associate data scientist is also a key management personnel because he drives my largest healthcare sector. It's a €7.5 billion company in the healthcare sector across the globe. So he becomes really crucial for us because he was in the start and then he builds up all the algos, primarily both in the predictive and the descriptive analytics space. So, so we actually created primarily the pool where we could actually develop the talent at from the bottom of it. And same also we started getting lateral. But yes, today there, if you are looking at a scale right now, the scale what we are looking at to develop specifically in Europe, where we are finding a lot of challenges as a part of it to attract even the Europeans being an Indian company. I mean, our vice president of Europe, Gaurav, is basically an ex-Infosys guy leading the data science here. I mean, in spite of that, you can't even still attract the Indians in the European market. It's really challenging. So we started collaborating with Rotterdam Management School, the specialist in the Brew University, which is into supply chain specializations, KIT, which is a famous institute in data science, Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. So we have started building all of them across the part. But lateral, it's a big challenge to attract them. Either you need to have a brand like, the large brand which people can do. But since we are a part in Gartner, so we capitalize a lot with Gartner. So we are already a cool vendor. Hopefully, I think end of this year, we will be there in the Magic Quadrant. But I mean, for us, we see people from a competitive landscape like O9, OMP. I mean, with these three, which has been always around. So we try to also look resources who could fit in from that space to build our, delivery pipelines because we have a heavy back orders. with the delivery team been struggling. And I think everybody will go through that because during COVID, I mean, we grew almost like 12 customers in 12 months. And that backlog started pulling to the next year. Again, we went on. Any PE-driven company, I think all will know it. My fellow mates will know that wherever there are private equity companies, the space, they always look at it as a high pace, high delivery to a part of it. But I think we have been a little fortunate with our PE company, so they have been, at least they're not going that at a high speed so that we stumble and we fail. But it's always the dropout percentage. If you look at averagely, if the position is 1, so probably we hire 5. So, and the other is you built up from the bottom. There is no other way I could see any success to hold the talents when you are an analytics-driven company or a platform or a SaaS-driven company. The challenges would all be there for everyone today.
Awesome. No, in fact, hey, thanks for that. I mean, I've kind of taken a note of your retaining, attracting, and more importantly, what touched me was the whole empowerment strategy. So thanks for sharing that, Lalit. Arvind, I'm going to come to you final, and again, I would request Swapnil, Nikki, and Lalit to take a look at the questions, if any, on the chat and respond them. So Arvind, 2 questions for you, and now, like I said, I'm going to save the best for the last. Where do you see the opportunities from a supply chain standpoint, and if you were to redo your journey again, okay, in your entrepreneurial drive that you did so far, what are the 2 things that you would do differently, Arvind?
So, Prasad, I think I was talking to you in jest yesterday that, whether I would have started on the journey at all. It's quite a tough journey, but that was in jest because the excitement and, the sense of achievement it gives is tremendous. But if there were 2 things that I would like to do, one of course was I would have adopted technology much earlier. And just when we started in 2012, the focus was not too much on technology, but I think I would have started that time because this gives you very great visibility across your entire network. And what has happened is thereafter, the government has also changed many rules. For example, with the coming of GST, a lot of things have changed, which were not there earlier. You had to have, every state you needed to have your own warehouses, and it meant extra transshipments and things like that. So to that extent, government has eased a lot of things. They have removed a lot of, encumbrances on the highways. They have removed that. So the government has done well, and the industry has also responded. Transportation has become much more faster. And luckily, such players have come in the market, who can give you every sort of data these days, which right from whether your driver is filling, how much fuel is he filling in the tank, okay, what time he, what mileage should we be expecting, what is the temperature of your product. So there are very temperature sensitive products we have. For example, if ice cream goes from -24 to -18, all the heavy nuts in the ice cream, they come down. The entire integrity of the ice cream is gone. And we have to give our customers these days. Earlier, we used to give them the data logger readings. So these days, we give them the link, and they are able to monitor at their end whether there's been any sort of temperature abuse, or these many of the customers now, they only give us a very small window for delivery. So you have to take an appointment for them for delivery. So for that, you have to match your technology with this. So that is what I feel is first of them is the technology part. And second thing that I would have liked to do is that from day one, while you have any number of cases where people say go for growth and getting revenue, but unit level profitability is very, very important. Unit level profitability ensures that you don't have to go with a begging bowl every now and then for funds. And it also internally it sets a lot of things right, in the sense that everybody becomes cost conscious. And so that realization came to us nearly after 4 or 5 years after we started business. Otherwise, everybody was just thinking pure growth, every year double sales. So these are 2 things that I think I would have done differently.
Thanks for that, team. And look, I think this has been a great discussion. My request to the audience and the listeners is, guys, go check out some of the company sites that Swapna, Nikki, Lalit and Arvind has got. The power of networking is best understood from what Lalit, from what Swapnil just articulated. Check out Freight Tiger. Nikki, actually, I mean, I know I don't have time for that question, but has a lot of white papers. I don't know from where she gets the time. She's like literally churning out white papers every week. I envy her for that. Lalit, just for your simplicity and the depth, I mean, hats off, Lalit. And Arvind, for next time I have an ice cream or eat anything, I mean, you'll always be the one I'll be thanking for that. but
Okay.
team, thank you. It's been a privilege to host all of you. I look forward to catching up with you in person, hopefully in Bombay very soon. But thank you for taking out the time. On behalf of SCPC, appreciate you contributing your learnings, your experiences, and looking forward to kind of just staying on the line so that we could just have the next interesting finale going forward. So with that, Tejaswini, Nistush, over to you.
Right. Thank you so much, group, and thank you so much, all the speakers, panelists, for such an insightful session. We'll now move on to the next segment of this SCPC 12.0, which is SCPC Innovation Awards. That is something which we have been doing. This is the second edition of that, and pretty excited to go ahead and announce the winners. We got really good entries, and I would now hand it over to Tejaswini to take it forward. I'll just share my screen as well. Tejaswini, over to you.
Thanks, Nishtush, and thank you, our respective panelists, for such an engaging conversation and insightful journey that we got a glimpse about. And now moving on to the award ceremony, we are very thankful for all our participants. This year we have got overwhelming response. We have got 16 participants who are participated in our second edition of our awards of SCPC. Nishtush, can we go to, yeah, that's the slide. Yeah. So I'm really thankful for all the participants who have been sending their entries for this second edition of our SCPC Innovation Awards in association with Henkel and RSA Global, and KnoWerX is our education partner. So as I said, we have received 16 entries, including Northwest Carrying Company, Panasonic. Then we have Carry Fast Logistics, Reliance Retail. There are consulting firms contributing like IBM, KPMG. We have joint entry by Tata Chemicals and Tata Consumer Products Limited. Then MetLabs. We also have entries submitted by ABB, Kellogg's, CSS Corp, and We Create Consultant again, Vritti Solutions, Marico, Novartis Healthcare, and Schneider Electrics. So all the participants would be receiving the appreciation certificates soon, and though we had to choose, this is the competition and we have to choose the winning teams, but we have gone through all the entries and they are quite interesting and innovative. So believe me, our judges had very tough time in selecting the winners. So Nistus, can we go to the next slide for next? Yeah, this is our jury members. Dr. Rakesh Sinha, he is the founder and CEO of Reflexive Supply Chain Solutions, and also he is a director for SCPC. Next is APR. We fondly call him Abhishek Rao is his formal name. He is the president for RSA Global, and he's 40 under 40 supply chain super achievers. Next is Ravindra Tulsian, founder and chief mentor at KnoWerX Education India Limited. And we have Vishwanathan Rajamanikaran, whom we call Vishy. He is heading business planning and at EMEA region for Henkel adhesives. And we have Ritesh Chaudhary, Director of IT and Digital Business at India and Pakistan at Henkel Group. So our jury had a very tough time in identifying the winners, and this was the selection criteria. The entries were judged based on innovativeness, the business need and benefits, the technical feasibility, as well as ease of implementation, the adaptability in the industry, then what ROI it is bringing to the table, the strategic fitment, and also the availability of POC. Now, without wasting a lot of more time, I would request Ravindra sir to announce the third winner.
Thank you, Tejaswini. Thank you so much. So before I announce the name, Tejaswini has already said everything. So we have to announce 3 shortlisted entries. I would like to thank all organizations once again for submitting these entries. They were all extremely good qualities. It shows that excellence transformation is happening in our country in the field of supply chain management. Let me tell you that we had a tough time, as Tejaswini already mentioned, shortlisting 3 out of 16, those who could not be listed. Salute to them as well for excellent transformation they are done in their respective organizations and their workforce. We had to shortlist 3 and only 3. So those who did not appear in the shortlist, missing by small difference out of, I think we gave for each evaluation, 5 weightage of each. So there was not a very big difference among all the participants. So they too are the winners, who could not get shortlisted. So I would request all of you to put your hands together to acknowledge them as well. Even those who got shortlisted, the difference was very thin. So it was not like a huge difference. So we had big challenges selecting who was going to be the first one and second one and third one. And we somehow debated and did that, and we came to some sort of a conclusion. So we'll just name in the reverse order. As Tejaswini said, we will announce the third one first. Okay. So I would like to announce the name of supply chain management team from Marico. Please put your hands together for an excellent job in transforming supply chain management at Marico. So now I will request Marico team to give a very quick overview of transformation carried out quickly. Thank you.
Right, someone from the team from Marico can unmute themselves, and you can go on with your presentation.
Yeah, hi, this is Joe from Marico. Thank you so much for the award. I think I'll just talk you through what we did. So basically, what we did is we built. I think the formatting has gone a little bit haywire, but what we did is we essentially built a control tower. And control tower is a bit of a often overused term in today's day, but we built it tackling mostly execution related challenges in our supply chain, right? So just give you 2 ideas on the context and why we had to build something like this. The business environment is changing quite rapidly at Marico. We have a huge long tail of SKUs which is getting created. And also, as the time passes by, we are we are increasingly competing with the Amazons of the world, where previously we were competing with the HULs of the world, right? So this was, the need for a control tower, which is something which is used widely at Amazon and Flipkart. And I would say the single point mandate which was given to me when I started this role was, to not make anything that would add to more reports, right? So if you see the 3 tenets on which, we have laid out the benefits of control tower. It's on measuring, monitoring, and managing. Measuring is the lowest one, possibly the easiest one. So, everything is automated in terms of our measurement. On monitoring and managing is where the great benefits of control tower are seen. On monitoring, now we are currently able to monitor our supply chain processes using a control tower, being able to highlight which are the critical tasks which are delayed, prioritize them, and also assign them to different stakeholders. We are also able to identify what is the unique reason for each order loss which happens in the system. So this helps the company, like a report card, right? So this is how we monitor our supply chain. Coming to the managing part of it, we have built a lot of automations. We have built an optimizer. We have built we have extended demand sensing. We have built an inventory tool, and we have done a lot of automations in terms of what tasks are common across all the portfolios of supply chain. So this is an in-house tool which we have built, and this has really helped in increasing the business results or the fill rates for our long tail portfolio. And on the right side, as I conclude, I'll just, these are all the things that we use for our tech stack. So just a brief overview of what we did. Thank you so much for the award, and thank you so much for having giving me this opportunity to present. This is the team. So team consisting of supply chain and also members from the BI, the data science, and the applications team, and headed by our boss, which is Nitin, who's the EVP and head of supply chain. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Joy and team. Now, can we have the second winner announced by APR?
Hello, Tejaswini. Thank you for the introduction earlier. Team Marico, Joe, Nitin, Suma, Vishwajit, Abhishek, Anurag, everybody wonderful. Congratulations. Quite a deep study. It actually was so insightful. Very, very happy that you guys are aligning with the future and basically creating how people should look at great case studies. So once again, congratulations to you all. The second place goes to, well, all the case studies were my favorite, but yeah, we had to pick a few, right? Like Ravi mentioned, just a bit, it was a difference of maybe 1920, so to speak. In Hindi, we call it 1920s, right? Incidentally, I'm at another award function right now over here and giving away this award. Great work done by this team. I will first spell out the names of the team members because that is what makes up our organization, right? Piyush Bhartiya, Satish Katti, BSK Sundar from Schneider Electric. Congratulations, everybody. Tejaswini, if you could ask them to start their presentation.
So, good afternoon, everybody. This is Piyush Bhartiya. I lead the procurement for Schneider in India. First of all, thank you for giving this opportunity to participate in this wonderful competition. I would say it is more than a competition, knowledge sharing, because in last 1.5 hours, we have learned so many new things. I think that would be an immense help for doing our business easily. Schneider Electric is a French company present out of our headquarters in France. We are around 29 billion euro company present in almost 100 countries with 165 plants. We make mission critical products and, to name few, 3-phase UPS, single phase UPS, and our clientels are, Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and to name few. Now, COVID has taught us many things doing innovatively, and one of the biggest challenge was for us to meet our customer demand while most of our suppliers were working remotely and we were not able to travel to suppliers' place. So our team had this challenge, and at Schneider we never say no. So we came up with innovative solution in terms of if you are not able to travel to supplier, how do we qualify new parts? How do we monitor supplier processes? How do we ensure the quality of the parts what we are getting correct? So we came up with a very innovative solution, and it's a digital and online solution which my colleague Sundar and Satish, I would request them to explain. But this solution has helped us in meeting our customer demand on time. And I can tell you situations where on Bangalore airport, the chartered planes are standing because our UPS is required in US for some of the medical where they're building their hospitals in emergency. So criticality was extremely high. The stakes were extremely high, but the digital solutions, what we have put in place, that has really helped us in meeting the mission critical customers demand. So with that, I would request Sundar and Satish to explain the product.
Thanks, Piyush. So as Piyush briefed about this pandemic, what hit the industry is typically before the pandemic, any product development, part development, the technical team, quality team used to visit the supplier place for the development process. During the pandemic process, it was difficult for us to develop the supplier place. So what solution we developed is a combination of real wear glass, where a supplier representative can wear at his place. He can connect with the Zoom meeting. He can zoom in the part. He can zoom in the drawing. It's a simple, fairly very simple solution which he can present the data in the Teams meeting. Also, it doesn't cost much. Probably the investment cost for the real wear glasses is less than 2 lakh rupees. Considering maybe if you say in 3-4 visit of supplier visit can be ROI is less than 3 months if you compare the investment. Same way, not only on real wear glass, which we implemented to measure the part development. Also, we wanted to monitor suppliers key critical to quality parameters. Also, we did not want the parts comes to our place and get rejected, and you ask for the replacement from supplier place. So we also implemented kind of a real time quality process monitoring system, which is called COSAR. So which will really monitor and give the inputs to the connect the Schneider system, gives what is how the CPK value process are going at supplier place. So with this, I request Satish to take it forward, how the organization benefited in this.
Yeah, so thank you, Sundar. And as you know, in the supply chain, definitely availability of the material on time is important, but at the same time, quality is also very important. Due to pandemic and the travel restrictions, and another challenge that we had was lack of skilled manpower at supplier place. Okay, suppliers started their businesses only for meeting Schneider needs, but the skilled manpower was not there. So we came out with this idea of inspection on real-time basis and virtual meetings, and that helped us to carry out the process audits and the system audits at the supplier, inspection and qualifying the parts. The second part of it was, okay, all this is done very good, but how do you monitor and control what they are producing? Because sometimes the skilled people are not there, or the regular team which are on the production are not available. So we deployed a online web-based system called QZAR, wherein they will measure the inspection activities, what they do. They're all connected devices, connected instruments, either through Wi-Fi system or through the wired connection. And whenever they do the measurements, it is immediately reflecting on our screen here, and we can actually look at how their process is being monitored and whether it is under control or not. Similarly, if there are any deviations which supplier wants to ask for, then this realware as well as this tool, what we have QZAR, both work together to really see that whether the deviation is permitted or not permitted. With this, I'm very proud to say that we were able to manage the right level of quality. It brought in a lot of benefits to supplier also, because they adopted the system for their other customers, and they were very thankful to us because we introduced something different to them. Touchwood, we never had any product quality issues. All our product are safety critical products. It goes into very high profile industries, hospitals, and where the power is very, very essential. So I think this innovation, although we could use it and copy it from other areas, like during pandemic, many people had WhatsApp call, video calls, and all those things. That triggered us to research into what is the technical solution available, which is safe, secure, and productive. And this is where we are. And today we are continue to use this technique. Thank you. Thank you again for the award, and thank you for the recognition. Thanks a lot.
Congratulations. Okay, now finally, let's have Ritesh to announce the winner.
So firstly, big compliments and congratulations to Team Schneider. And in fact, we also used the same RealWear device in Henkel for installing our plant and machinery with the help of German experts, again during the COVID time, because they could not have traveled and we needed their expertise. So lovely innovation it is and very useful. Thank you. So coming to the overall winner of this event, this time I would like to announce it is Project Firefly, delivered by Subrata Das, Vasant Gokhale, Pooja Das, and Abhay Thomas from Team Kellogg. So would request if you can come on the screen and present it.
Hello, everyone. Hope all of you can hear me. So I've got my partners in crime, Pooja, Vasant, and Subrat on video. It's an absolute honor as well as a humbling experience to be receiving this award on the organization's behalf. We'll spend a couple of minutes and take you through at a high level what Project Firefly was all about and what the team did. So at a high level, these were the two objectives from an overall value matrix. We wanted to improve our availabilities. From a traditional count perspective, we were close to 80% availability on a day basis. That was our start point. So we wanted to move that up. The second one was, despite moving up availability and reducing out of stock, we also wanted to keep a check on the overall inventory that we carried in the system. So to balance both sides of the equation so that one doesn't gain on the cost of the other, or in the course of the overall delivery, we don't lose out on the overall objective. So those became our bedrocks. If we can get to the next slide, please. With this in mind, this is what the team deployed. This is a high level overview of the solution. The big change that you'll see here is we delinked our entire process in terms of right from replenishment to procurement, from being forecast based to consumption based. Now this particular consumption was termed in terms of demand. So final demand that I get from my distributors and channel partners triggers the entire cycle rather than it being dependent on forecast. So that's the big change that we took as an entire process and build this particular solution out. To the next slide, please. This solution that we deployed had 5 core elements. I'd like to talk through that next. Can we have the screen back, please?
Sorry, there's just been a network issue. Just give me a minute.
Yeah. Thank you. So this forms the fundamental principles on which the entire solution is based out. And since we are touching everything from replenishment to procurement, these core principles is what the solution is built on. So very simple in terms and intuitive in terms of when we think about it, hold inventory closer to source rather than push that downstream, gives us the flexibility to be able to react to the demand as it happens. It also gives us those buffers that we want to manage. Dynamically arrive at inventory levels using both replenishment as well as production lead time so that you make sure that your Norms are dynamic and not static. Dynamic makes them prone to changes, as well as gives us the flexibility to be able to manage the overall inventory level. Replenishing only what is sold and not what is demanded, because a lot of demand comes out of optimism, and optimism ends up killing at most times. The other one is to keep this pattern of daily demand. So make sure that you order daily, but make sure that your costs are optimized by replenishing when the full truck loads or the optimum size of shipment is available, while ordering can continue at a daily level. And at the bedrock of all it, while so many moving pieces are going around, we monitor that at a continuous rate, which is on a daily scale, so that adequate buffers and safety inventory is carried through the system. The next slide, please. So this in summary is what the solution would finally look like. Again, visual heavy to the end user. The entire buffer or the stock norm is segregated into multiple color coded bands. White represents excess inventory and a black represents out of stock. Red is where you start getting into a danger zone and hence need to react faster. Green means that there is enough buffer left in the system for it to absorb more shocks and may not be priority number one. This also helped us prioritize where do you ship first versus where do you hold shipment. The red always gets priority over green, and it's always data-based rather than human, either experience, intelligence, or demand-based, thereby taking away a lot of cross-functional talk about why it is not being done, and then data becomes your source at which what you rely on, how you replenish. So this then is the crux of the solution that the team deployed, and we are very happy that we've had reasonably good results, both in terms of deployment as well as business returns on the process. Thanks a ton for this opportunity. Like I said, humbled and honored to have received it on account of Kellogg's.
Thank you, Team Kellogg's. Congratulations. Nistush, can we go to the next slide, please? These are the trophies that would be receiving, or you would be receiving soon. And now with that, let's move on to the closing ceremony. May I request Arvinder, Director SCPC, to have a few words.
The closing ceremony is going to be taken by Murugan.
Yeah,
So,
Arvinder is stuck is being a standard supply chain practitioner, right? So he's been stuck somewhere. Yeah, right. Thanks for a wonderful participation. I want to start with the participants for providing their 1.5 hours and making SCPC bigger and bolder. And we are looking forward to engage with you to grow to the next level. Feel free to drop us a mail if you want to get engaged with us on any forms, right? That's what I will start with. I want to thank all the award people who have submitted the awards and the winners, especially, right, taking up extra efforts. I just want to thank them. Definitely, it's a big thing. And then our juries, our SCPC members, for taking up the efforts in terms of finalizing and putting up this event together. Importantly, the panelists taking out time from their busy schedule, definitely truly appreciate it. And I want to end with thanking our sponsors, RSA Global and Henkel, to kind of do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of providing the trophies and ensuring that the event and the Innovation Award is kind of getting shaped in the right way. I want to thank my sponsors, and then especially our education partner, KnoWerX, who is kind of helping us in setting up the full event. I want to thank them as well. Yeah, and looking forward for the next event and want to grow India as a stronger base for supply chain excellence and talent. That's our aspiration, and we will continue in this journey. And we will shortly update you on the 13th event, right? And very shortly, right? And if any of you are willing to engage or host the event, and drop a note to Nistush and the team member, to any of the team members. Watch us on LinkedIn. With that, I want to wish you a wonderful rest of the day and a happy holiday, happy weekend.
thank you, Murugan, and thank you everyone for joining in. Have a great weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.